morning, everybody, and thanks so much for the invitation here. I'm at a very nice place right now, attending an entomological conference where my students are speaking and providing conference talks. But I'm very happy to talk to you a little bit about biological control programs for weeds and how to get organized and develop them, which is a little bit of a daunting process. And I basically continue where Stephanie left us off, since the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, is one of the key laws that governs what we try to do with biocontrol of weeds. So where does one even get started? The slides here on the right are just an example of one of the pretty successful weed biocontrol programs. It's an old program. It started in the mid-70s. It's against leafy spurge, before Vigara, and one of its biocontrol agents that is successful, quite successful to control that weed in Midwestern states, Minnesota and the Dakotas and parts of Montana. It's a little flea beetle, Aftona lassatosa, and you see how there's like 1,000 beetles hanging from that one plant branch. But where does one get started? Well, a good start is to talk to experts in your state, and I'm happy that the talk is going to get recorded, so I guess that information that's on the screen here is available to you afterwards. I provide here a few state contacts for people that you can contact, and for any and every weed that you're concerned about, and they will tell you whether a biocontrol program exists. In Washington State, for instance, that's Jennifer Andrews, and she, among other things, is the consortium lead for flowering rush, the biocontrol program for flowering rush. In Montana, it's Melissa Maggio, who's leading a statewide effort, and you can contact me. And in Idaho, also there's an SPS Tribe Biocontrol Center, who since 20 years or so is doing nothing else but providing biocontrol agents for a number of weeds to folks who are interested in receiving them. So I started a long time ago to get interested in helping tribal nations to set up biocontrol programs, because sometimes it felt like they got a little neglected in states, and you know, of course, the reservations do constitute a large area of land where weeds also occur. So I did and do these workshops. This is like really old picture. I think it's 2004. So at the Yakima Tribal Nation, we talked about implementation of biocontrol of yellow starter. So the best way to get involved is, of course, to have someone out there, and then we can get our hands dirty and look at things. One of the reasons why I do these workshops is that oftentimes biocontrol agents are already existing on weeds, and people just don't know about them because they are not that easy to identify. On the other hand, if biocontrol agents are out there and the weed is still a problem, you have to ask yourself whether the project is really working. So, but generally, when we develop weed biocontrol programs, because they are costly, they're organized through consortia where all the agencies and groups who are interested come together and basically bundle money. And I will talk you through a bunch of resources where you can hopefully inform yourselves quite well about what is out there and what does already exist or what does not yet exist. So if you Google at biological weed control at UI, it gets you to a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel does not have really a lot. It has two things. One is a list of 12 videos that are ranging from 3 to 10 minutes that guide you through how a biocontrol program is really organized, where you start, what you do, who you contact, what you want to do, how you get insects, what do you do with the insects, and what do you do after the insects are released. And you can watch these videos. It's basically the entire content that 15 years ago I would have shown in a PowerPoint presentation over 3 hours to people. I think the videos are a bit more entertaining than me narrating that with my German accent. So I think this is a really good resource if you want to just inform yourself, what are these weed biocontrol people even doing and how does it all work? Then on the same YouTube channel, there is also an identification series for weeds. And we started out with all of Idaho's noxious weeds. So currently there's 49 videos on there. They're short. They're short and they're meant to be short. They're typically between 3 and 4 minutes, but they do accurately help you to identify a plant as a noxious weed. There's 49 videos on there now, and there is another 15 coming very soon that deals with rather important weeds that are not on the Idaho noxious weed list, for instance. And that will include something like Russian olive or cheatgrass, which is not on the Idaho noxious weed list. So this is just a resource that people can use to help themselves or help others to identify, or if they are not sure whether a weed is a weed, that should work well. Well, that was this one here. Totally forgot. So another big website that deals exclusively with weed biocontrol is biocontrol.org. I mentioned this website because under the resources, there is one specific item that's interesting, and that's a Word document that has alphabetically listed every weed biocontrol consortium that currently exists in North America. So you look up a weed and you scroll down, it will give you names of the people you can contact in the United States, it gives you the organization who's doing the research or universities who are doing the research, overseas places, and more contact information. So that's really helpful. I'm not sure whether it's completely updated in 2024, but it's a really great starting point. And then there's all sorts of other information you can get on this website. There's fact sheets on weeds, there's fact sheets on biocontrol agents, and it's the central place where people like me or students of mine who do post-release monitoring of biocontrol agents can go and upload data and download data. Lastly, another resource is the National North American Invasive Species Management Association. They have a subcommittee on biological control, and under that subcommittee, there is a page again with resources, and here you'll find more fact sheets on weed biocontrol programs. Basically, they have the weed covered, and then the biocontrol agents for that weed that you can use and where you can get them. And also, I think NAISMA is having a little short course. I think it's Biocontrol 101. You can take that short course and then you get a little certificate printed afterwards, if I understand it correctly. So what does it really take to get a biocontrol agent approved for release in the United States? And this is where, among other things, NEPA comes in. It's a complicated regulatory process. USDA, APHIS, United States Department of Agriculture, Annual Plant Health Inspection Service, PPQ, Plant Protection Quarantine. That's really the agency that's mandated under the Plant Protection Act to deal with invasive species management and also biological control agent introductions, because until they are approved as biocontrol agents, they are considered potential plant pests. So then the Endangered Species Act is important, and of course NEPA is guiding all agencies. And then there's some more executive orders and a little more smaller acts, but they all play a role in how the process is governed to bring agents in. And this is really how it works. People like me spend, well, sometimes a lifetime doing host specificity testing. In the next slide, I explain what that is. And then when we feel we have all the data to show that the insect is safe for release, then we write a petition that is submitted to the technical advisory group. That's a group that helps APHIS reviewing these petitions. It has representatives of all federal agencies mandated with land management in there. It's also including BIA, therefore, and it also would be great to have the tribal nations represented. Now, I think the BIA seat on TAG is empty since a few years when Larry Banneker retired. So, Robert, if you're interested, feel free to contact me. I think the APHIS would be delighted to have you as a BIA representative on that committee. So then after that petition is reviewed, there's a recommendation to APHIS, and APHIS then has to write environmental assessment, and that is used as the document that is communicated with the Fish and Wildlife Service because they have to concur. And then I have this here, tribal consultations, and that's an important step too. So then tribes are contacted whether they are okay or not to release biocontrol agents. I have that highlighted in blue for a specific reason, and that is that currently there is a few biocontrol agents in tribal consultations, one of them being an agent for hound's tongue that I'm working on. And often it is not that people don't want to release these biocontrol agents. Often it is that they do not understand what weed biocontrol is really about. And if they do not know that, then as every reasonable person would think, you want to be cautious to bring in another organism that doesn't belong to North America, because that's essentially what weed biocontrol does. We reunite these key insect species that are the main feeders of the weeds with the weeds here in North America. And the host range testing, of course, has the sole purpose to make sure that they only can develop on the target weed and on no other plant species at all. So this is what host specificity testing or host range testing is all about. We want to assess the environmental safety of these insects. And this is why it takes so long, because we have to test hundreds of plant species. And of course, the main emphasis are endangered or threatened and endangered listed species in North America that are related to a weed that we are targeting. So we do this by two means, physiological host range, no choice test, you develop or you die. And then there's choice tests where an insect has choice between the weed and related plant species. And we do this over years. And these petitions, therefore, involve a lot of summarized data that hopefully picture a convincing overall data set that shows that the insect is safe. So which weeds should be targeted to be biocontrol targets in the first place? Well, this is a question that the weed biocontrol community worldwide has thought about a long time ago, since a long time. And there have been quite a few of assessments, what are the next weed biocontrol targets? CS1 on the right-hand side, that has been done in 2018 in 2 workshops. The problem with this is that too often people like me are asked, and I have my pet weeds, right? I would say hound's tongue is a huge issue. We have to have biocontrol for hound's tongue. And to avoid that and have a more objective way of deciding which weeds really should be targeted, we just did publish a framework for the United States that's based on what folks have developed in South Africa that only use quantitative data and not expert opinion to decide which weeds should be targeted. And that was quite an exercise in data science. And we used as a starting point the noxious weed list of states, of the 12 Western states. We also included, but then excluded the federal noxious weed list, because it's an incredibly old and outdated document. It was last updated in 2004. So 12 Western states lists. In the end, we ended up ranking 289 species. And now you probably like to know which came out to be the next weeds that should be targeted for biocontrol using.
Just about a couple minutes left.
Excuse me?
Oh, just about a couple minutes left.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I'm on the second last. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
It came out on top. So one of the things that I really wanted to do with this ranking is I wanted to avoid that all the weeds that have biocontrol programs already in the making come out on top. But of course, the problem is that one of our items to rank the weeds for suitability was whether there's information elsewhere in the world on biocontrol existing for them, because it would save a lot of money if people in Canada or in South Africa have already done a biocontrol program against a certain weed that's also invasive. Here, it saves us just incredible amounts of money and resources because we can use their data. So what you see here are the top 20 weeds that are supposed to be the next biocontrol targets if we include information of biocontrol programs existing elsewhere. So the weeds that have a star here have ongoing biocontrol program elsewhere or have already efforts in the United States, although no agents have been released yet. And this is what you find. French broom is number one. And this is interesting because actually there's no biocontrol program against that weed existing, other than Australia did some work in the 80s, I think. Parrot's feather, Brazilian Iguria, and a bunch of hawkweeds, and there's also houndstong. Now, we also did categorically exclude all ranked weeds that had biocontrol information existing, and then you end up with another priority list. And there's only one thing that I want to point out here, and that's number 4, camel thorn. And camel thorn is particularly exciting to me because I did a lot of workshops with the Navajo and Hopi in Arizona and Nevada, and they have so much camel thorn. And I thought to myself how great of a biocontrol target it would be back then. And the reason for that is that it's a very isolated plant species. So finding insects that are environmentally safe would be fairly easy. Then there are some others that are not so easy. Baudelaire, of course, I guess everybody who is not living in the Intermountain West, but on the West Coast, would not have a problem thinking that this is a good target weed, but a lot of people love butterfly bush. So anyways, this is what we came up with. The first part has been published. This list here is going to be published pretty soon. In a journal that's not only available to entomologists, and I'm sure that it will take us some time to get through the publication process because a lot of people will have issue with, it's always the case if you propose something for biocontrol that is still commercially sold by people. And yeah, nonetheless, workshops on tribal reservations are the best tool that there is. And with this slide, I would like to thank you so much. If you have any questions, please ask.